Welcome to the joint Metro North and Long Island Railroad Committee meetings. I want to, as always, thank the men and women who got me here safely on the Long Island Railroad and the New York City subway system this morning, and many of you. We will start with a public comment period. Do we have any public comments today?
We have one public speaker today. I believe there's going to be an announcement.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA.
Public safety announcements,
Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Good morning. We have one member of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware of the clock in the front of the room and the warning light that you will see. Remind you that you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. The first and only speaker for today is Lisa Daglian.
Okay, we're working on it. Good morning. Okay, great. Can we reset me to 2 minutes, please? Thank you. Good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. This morning, I'm going to share concerns we've heard from Metro North and Long Island Railroad riders about insufficient service, slow rides, and standing room only cars. We know that you've heard similar concerns, but I'd also like to express our thanks and appreciation to everyone who works on the railroads for getting riders where they need to go safely. Returning riders are counting on service that will get them where they need to go, especially as they head back to work, as many MTA employees did today. On Metro North, we're hearing a lot of concerns about long rides with lots of local stops. Riders are concerned that the service they're used to having is not running during rush hour, but during off-peak hours, that there is no rush in rush hour. Yes, Metro North is still recovering from Ida, but the lack of good express service was an issue in the schedules that were released before her wrath. On the Long Island Railroad, we're hearing about crowding in the early morning trade trains, to the point where some riders are standing the whole way inbound or just giving up and driving. As commute patterns evolve, that can't be the new normal. We must add capacity to existing trains as warranted, or risk losing riders who would otherwise depend on the railroad. We know the railroads are still hurting from the pandemic, but it's important to look to the future to entice back ridership. The agreement reached last week with New Jersey and Connecticut allows the MTA to apply for pandemic relief funds through ARP, and we believe they should be used to ensure sufficient service is running, enough trains and train cars, and service levels that are closer to pre-pandemic levels. This is the most important step to encourage riders to get back on board. At a time when we desperately need riders, the worst thing we can do is disappoint those who return with service that is not what they experienced before the pandemic, or makes them feel crowded or late. Let's make sure that every rider's post-pandemic experience is even better than they remembered, with more service, reliability, and capacity. Thank you.
That concludes the public speakers registered for today.
All right, thank you. Summary of actions are in your books. Next item is the approval of minutes from October 18th, 2021. Take a motion by David, seconded by Randy. Any comments, revisions, additions? All in favor? Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Robert Free is filling in for Phil Eng. Robert, any changes to the Long Island Railroad work plan?
No changes.
Thank you, Rob. Kathy, any changes to Metro North?
No changes to the Metro North Work Plan.
Great. So let's go right to the agency president's reports. Long Island Railroad starts off this month, so I'll hand it over to Rob Free.
Thank you, Commissioner Law. Good morning, everyone. We know that a lot of Islander fans have been anxiously waiting for the opening of the UBS Arena to watch their hometown team and other special events. Well, their wait is over. The Islanders' first game at their new home is this Saturday, November 20th. To enhance their experience, we are expanding service to allow fans to get to and from the arena via the new Elmont train station. Starting this Saturday, November 20th, we'll be providing multiple travel options to the UBS Arena for events. Extra trains will be added between Belmont Park and Jamaica stations pre- and post-event, added stops at Queens Village Station for mainline trains, westbound trains pre- and post-event, and eastbound trains post-event. Hempstead branch trains will stop at Queens Village pre- and post-event, and eastbound Hempstead branch trains are stopping at the new Elmont train station pre- and post-event. Customers at Queens Village or the new Elmont station will be accommodated by shuttle buses provided by UBS Arena between those stations and the arena. Customers can find this train service information on the MTA website. As always, we ask that customers check the Long Island Railroad Train Time app for the latest real-time service information before and during travels. Earlier this month, we unveiled the new Call Place station. As part of the Long Island Railroad expansion project, Call Place station was completely revamped with the new overpass, platform canopies, and new elevators, making the station fully ADA accessible. The station also includes wider platforms, platform shelters, digital signs, free Wi-Fi, and charging outlets. This completion brings us one step closer to our ultimate goal of making the Long Island Railroad 100% ADA accessible. It's exciting to see the expansion project progressing so well and all the added benefits that our customers are experiencing because of it. As we have historically done and continue to do so during the pandemic, we're closely monitoring ridership so we can best match our schedules to customer needs. Daily ridership continues to creep up. On weekdays, we're seeing about 52% of pre-pandemic ridership, and the weekends remain strong. 72% on Saturdays and 76% on Sundays are pre-pandemic numbers. In October, more than 3.9 million rides were taken on our system. That's an 8.5% increase over September. On-time performance for the month of October closed at 97.8%, above the monthly goal of 94%. For the year so far, we're at 96.3%, an increase of 0.3 percentage points compared to the same period last year. All of our 11 branches operated at or above goal, not just for the month of October, but for the entire year so far as well. This further proves that everything we've been doing, from proactive maintenance to ambitious cutting-edge technology, has been delivering, giving our customers the safe, reliable, and on-time service they deserve. To that point, we've been tackling a number of state-of-good repair projects, fortifying our system, keeping it safe and reliable, which directly contributes to getting our customers to their destination on time. Some of these efforts include installing more than 48,000 concrete ties. We replaced more than 200,000 linear feet of running rail, over 7,000 linear feet of third rail, and 143 communication and high-tension poles. We also cut over a new signal system on the Long Beach branch. The new system improves redundancy by providing alternate control features, resiliency by raising critical infrastructure, and operational flexibility by allowing us to operate in both directions on both tracks with signals. These improvements might not be noticeable to the eye or get a ton of attention like other enhancements, but these components are truly the backbone of what helps keep our service running reliably. With fall in full swing, our strategy for combating slippery rail conditions is well underway. Our laser trains and power washers operating daily, covering more than 3,000 miles of track so far this season. For the month of October, we're off to a good start, as we operated a full schedule of trains and consist sizes, meaning we did not have to alter our schedule due to cars being taken out of service because of flat wheels. The holiday season is here, and to assist our customers with their holiday travels, we will provide extra service on Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th. by adding 10 additional trains in the early afternoon to our regular weekday schedule. And yet another sign of things returning to normal, the Thanksgiving Day Parade is allowing spectators this year, and we'll be providing additional service on Thanksgiving Day, November 25th, to help get our customers there. In the morning, there will be 6 extra westbound trains for those attending the parade. In the early afternoon, 11 extra eastbound trains will operate for those returning home from the parade or heading to Long Island for Thanksgiving gatherings. Again, we ask that customers check the Long Island Railroad Train Time app. And lastly, as part of our award-winning track safety education program, our corporate safety department is holding a safety superhero contest this year through December 15th. Open to K through 12 students across our service territory, participants are asked to get creative and come up with a new name for the Long Island Railroad safety superhero, as well as a new look and slogan or lyrics. Our safety department will combine the 3 winning entries to create and use the Long Island Railroad superhero to promote safety. More information on the contest and how to enter can be found at mta.info by searching the term tracks. Other reports and performance summaries can be found in the book, and thank you. I'll take any questions you may have.
Robert,
Any questions for Rob? David?
we keep an eye on the cleanliness from these crowds, especially on these events. People just throw stuff, and we want to put our best foot forward.
Yes, we put extra personnel to address it, and for Thanksgiving Eve into Thanksgiving Day, there's an alcohol ban, which seems to help that as well.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions for Rob? Thanks, Rob. And we'll hear from Kathy now for the Metro North report. Oh, I'm sorry. That to you last time, too. I apologize.
That's okay, Commissioner. I appreciate the opportunity. So good morning, everybody. We're reporting on our safety performance through the period ending September 2021, and that can be found starting on page 33 in your book. I did want to take the opportunity to note, and in the spirit of Thanksgiving, bring attention to the fact that on Long Island we have thousands of dedicated men and women who serve and volunteer their time to the emergency services, the different fire districts, medical responders on Long Island. And in the spirit of extending that appreciation, they respond to trespasser strikes, they respond to grade crossing incidents, they respond to medical emergencies. And one of the ways that we try to support them in these efforts is by holding, like we recently did on October 17th, a simulated drill. In preparation for UBS opening, we simulated an event involving a derailment and a fire. We held it at Belmont Station to provide the opportunity for the emergency responders to get a sense of what it would be like to respond to an event involving a train. As people are probably more than well aware, there's a lot of unique hazards when responding to an event on Long Island Railroad property and on Long Island Railroad equipment. And the best way that we can help to prepare folks for that eventuality is to have these drills. We also do extensive classroom training. So I wanted to thank Chief Ronald Conti from the Elmont Fire Department for partnering on this with us, and also acknowledge some key Long Island Railroad staff. So from the Office of the Fire Marshal under the leadership of Chief Lee Sorensen, Fire Marshal Dan Gallagher was instrumental to the planning of this event. And the training department under the leadership of Greg James and Ken Klein, Brian Ayutica, John Thomas, and Brian Corkery are instrumental in the year-round training that we do for the emergency responder community. And you can see from the report that there was quite an extensive list of participating agencies. So we are very focused on opening day for the Islanders and UBS, but I also wanted to acknowledge the fact that this is a year-round proposition, and the men and women on Long Island that volunteer their time and answer that call 24/7 deserve our appreciation and our thanks. In addition, for the reporting period ending September 2021, our average reportable customer injury rate was 3.08 injuries per million customers, as compared to 4.78 injuries over the same period last year. And our average reportable lost time injury rate was 3.97 per 200,000 hours worked versus 3.3 the year before. And I'm happy to answer any questions folks may have.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions for Lori? Hearing none. Now we'll go to Kathy for the Metro North report.
Thank you so much. As I previously reported to the Metro North and Long Island Railroad committees, I'm pleased to again state in this larger forum that last week Metro North received the American Public Transportation Association, APTA, 2021 Gold Award for Rail Safety Excellence for an innovative system that allows train dispatchers to ensure worker safety by de-energizing tracks at the touch of a button, streamlining a process that formerly involved manually filling out paper forms. This system is known as POPS, the Plate Order Protection System, and this first-of-its-kind safety system was developed in-house by Metro North's Communications and Signals team. POPS gives our rail traffic controllers and power directors a computer-based option for setting parameters for de-energizing tracks within a work area from the OCC in real time. A plate order is requested as filled out to remove a track from service for electrical work. We are thrilled to receive this award and are so proud of our team behind this program. POPS is the latest example of our continued commitment to implementing new technology to keep our employees and our customers safe. Another major technological advance on the railroad. On November 7th, working in partnership with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, we eliminated our last dark territory manual block system segment on our system when we activated centralized traffic control on the 27-mile-long Waterbury branch. Having all lines and branches signalized and operating with PTC is the next phase. That will happen next weekend, November 19th. We appreciate our customers' patience as this final work is being done to activate the signal system and this weekend to activate PTC. And I want to really thank the project team for all that they did to bring everything into online for the signal system and for the PTC system next weekend. In our information items for this month is our periodic update on our Way Ahead program. So I'm going to devote the balance of my remarks to this PowerPoint here, which summarizes recent milestones and achievements in furtherance of our Way Ahead moving forward strategic plan. Our focus continues to be on restoring and welcoming back ridership, guided by the initiatives in our Way Ahead moving forward plan that was launched in June. Our mission continues. Post-COVID, and as we continue to recover from the pandemic, our mission, our vision, and our values are more important than ever. We want to be a safe and reliable, efficient railroad providing regional mobility and excellent customer service. And we want to set the standard for safety, reliability, and innovation as we deliver that service. We continue to focus on our three priorities: our customers, our people, and our infrastructure. Our public-facing Way Ahead plan, which launched in the fall of 2018, integrates our challenges into our new COVID-19 reality. The challenges that we faced organizationally, financially, and more broadly as a society are daunting as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The world has changed significantly since the pandemic, and we need to respond to where we find ourselves today. Our Way Ahead Moving Forward program continues to focus on these three priorities, and our work in these three areas are guided by the principles we articulated: safety, innovation, and integrity. This effort is about identifying a prioritized set of actions that we think are necessary to help us recover over the next 2 to 3 years. And as the region continues to reopen, we will continue to look at what it takes for us to recover and to help the region recover. And as the result of the MTA transformation, we will be partnering with the other MTA towers, especially the communications tower, to ensure an excellent customer experience. We've updated our strategies in each of our three priority areas to respond to these new challenges. Although our customers have been riding more frequently, our weekday and weekend ridership is still down from our pre-pandemic levels. However, we anticipate that weekday and weekend ridership will continue to grow and return in earnest for the remainder of 21 and as we head into 2022. Though there's still a lot of uncertainty about ridership patterns post-pandemic and how this will affect future service levels, our plan is essential for continuing to deliver safe and reliable transportation services and an excellent customer experience. Today I'm going to focus on our customers and the strategies and initiatives with respect to our customers. In future months, I will update our people and our infrastructure strategies and initiatives. A core customer strategy as seen throughout 2021 is to maximize customer health, safety, and confidence. Increasing service and travel options is more and more important, and it's essential that we do everything that we can to accommodate our returning customers and modify train services and schedules based upon changing demands. Daily cleaning and disinfecting of stations and trains has become a fundamental element of our pandemic response and an important component to building and maintaining customer confidence as more and more riders continue to come back. All employees, but especially our coach cleaners and our power washing stations team, have an integral role to play in our strategy to ensure that all stations and trains are cleaned and disinfected frequently. In addition, through our ongoing partnership with the MTA Police, our customers feel more safe and secure at stations and on board our trains. Next slide, please. We want to continue to increase service and travel options as more and more riders continue to return, and we want to modify train services and schedules based upon changing demands. The schedule that we put into place on August 29th increased our service plan to 82% of pre-pandemic levels and restored weekend service to full pre-pandemic levels. We resumed direct service between Grand Central Terminal and Wassaic and New Canaan, along with ferry service on the Hudson Line. And we also added trains to the Hudson Line weekend schedule as the fall foliage season kicked off into full gear in the Hudson Valley, and as weekend leisure travel continued to grow. This morning, we added service, or New Jersey Transit added service, on the Pascack Valley line, adding an express train during the morning rush hour and an additional train out of Hoboken in the early afternoon to increase service options and speed up commute times between Rockland County and New York City. Also on the Port Jervis line, the schedules of 6 weekend trains were adjusted and include significant travel time savings for the 3 trains that originate in Port Jervis and 1 afternoon train that departs from Hoboken. With respect to our on-time performance, October's train service operated above goal at 96.6%. By line, that breaks down to as follows: Hudson Line 96.8%, Harlem Line 96.6%, and the New Haven Line 96.4%. West of Hudson service operated at 92.6% OTP, and year-to-date performance was slightly below goal at 93.3%. In October, we announced a pilot program coming to Grand Central Terminal for bicyclists in collaboration with Brooklyn-based startup Oni, a 6-space secure bike parking pod known as Oni's Mini, which will be installed at Grand Central Terminal's formal taxiway space at 43rd Street in Vanderbilt. The pilot program will run for 1 year with an expected launch later this month. We understand the importance of promoting sustainable transportation, and we see the growth in bike usage as a natural partner to mass transit. This is why we also, along with the Long Island, removed the permit requirement to travel with full-size bikes. In partnership with the Communications Group and the Customer Service Group, we integrated numerous Welcome Back New York initiatives. As we've been publicizing for the last several weeks, off-peak fares are in effect through December 31st, 2021. Rail customers using single-ride trips and 10-trip tickets can benefit from savings up to nearly 40% of the normal price, depending upon distance travel. Other Welcome Back New York initiatives that have been announced over the past several weeks include Friends and Family Wednesdays, which extended between September 15th and October 27th, the Autumn Weekends, which will continue through November 21st, and a number of programs that have been announced through the newly branded MTA Away program, which replaces the former Deals and Getaway programs that were run by each of the agencies. Customers can learn about current deals and destinations, regardless of their agency, through a robust digital signage appearing in stations and onboard trains and buses, and on a brand new dedicated website, mtaaway.com. In addition, several of us appeared at a great event at the White Plains Station several weeks ago. The completion of the full-scale renewal of the yes, if I can remember the name of my own railroad, the Metro-North Railroad's 3rd busiest station in downtown White Plains. This project transformed a formerly run-down station into a state-of-the-art complex with a more customer-friendly atmosphere for everyone. The top-to-bottom station transformation included a refurbishment of our main entrance, a refurbishment of the Main Street and Hamilton Avenue entrances, and the Mott Street Tunnel. The station remodeling brought an updated, modern aesthetic to the station, including updated signage, glassed entrances, wood soffits, a widened main lobby, improved lighting, an upgraded HVAC, and a remodeled waiting room and a remodeled restroom. The side and island platforms were extended to increase capacity, and a heated platform was added to the northbound platform. In addition, we're looking to enhance accessibility throughout our system. West of Hudson, we completed improvements at the Port Jervis station, which transformed the station, making it fully accessible and providing a more modern feel according to our new station standards as customers continue their return to the railroad. These upgrades included the construction of a one-car-length high-level platform, a concrete ramp leading from the parking lot to the platform, and a new sidewalk. And we are actively working with New Jersey Transit to explore additional accessibility improvements at other West of Hudson stations. We have a long-standing commitment to accessibility, and in 2021, we established an accessibility task force to strengthen our partnerships in those efforts. This task force is a forum for the exchange of information about our services and facility accessibility as they relate to persons with disabilities and their transportation needs. As part of our Way Ahead Moving Forward plan, we're continuing to collaborate with the Accessibility Task Force to identify other opportunities for enhancements, and we're grateful to have the active participation of Kimuel Arroyo, our Chief Accessibility Officer, along with several board members and advocates. Our multi-level elevator project to install ADA elevators at Scarsdale, Hartsdale, and Purdy stations will begin in 2022. Finally, we continue to promote our call-ahead program for customers who need assistance getting on or off the train, where we have assisted customers who either rely on wheelchair assistance or visually impaired escorts in GCT or contacted us through the call-ahead program. A core strategy is communicating timely, accurately, and openly with our customers. Throughout the pandemic, our station's personnel continued to provide face-to-face customer service at key stations through our Station Ambassador program, as well as our Station Talk program, our Mask Force events, and our TRACK program. We continue to utilize and expand multiple communications channels and technologies for customer information, service alerts, and changes, including expanding digital displays throughout our system and on board our trains. As part of the MTA transformation, we're working closely with all of the various teams in the new communications tower at MTA, and we're seeking opportunities to streamline and make enhancements to customer communications jointly with them. Last Wednesday, we were thrilled to bring back our Connect With Us customer outreach program for the first time since the start of the pandemic, with a forum at Grand Central Terminal. We initiated the Connect With Us program in 2014, hosting these forums at various locations across our service territory to provide an opportunity for senior Metro North leaders to hear directly from customers and foster an open dialogue with customers about service and progress on major issues. And we're in the process of scheduling future Connect With Us events around the territory. We're looking to improve the customer experience through innovation. Our popular Train Time app is now available on Apple Watches and for Android watches soon. We're the first commuter railroad to provide companion smartphone app available for customers. Customers can save their favorite trips and station information for quick, easy, and safe viewing on their smartwatch. They no longer need to look for their phone while they're traveling on Metro North. Through the creation of bookmarks in the app on their phone, customers receive push notifications on their watch, alerting them to track changes, service alerts, and passenger crowding information, affecting their bookmark trips while saving them time and providing them a safer experience. This information is available in Spanish, Italian, Chinese, Portuguese, and Yiddish. This concludes the PowerPoint, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the strategies.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy? I see Jerry. And Danielle.
Yeah, Kathy, you had mentioned the bicycles and that we no longer require permits. Do you still have the prohibition of bicycles during rush hour?
Yeah, the rules have not changed. The permitting required, and this is the same for the Long Island as well. So the rules have not changed with respect to bikes on board, with respect to rush hour prohibitions. None of the restrictions have changed. It's just the permitting requirement that has changed.
Okay, great. And those rules also apply to the motorized scooters that we're starting to see?
Well, this is an issue that we're dealing with. The scooters are getting to be a bigger and bigger issue, and we're actually looking to see what we need to do to be able to control that issue, because some of them are quite large, some of them don't fold up. So we're actually, I think you're looking at this as well. This is something that we're actively looking at because people are starting to bring them on board, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with that situation.
Right, and we're starting
Yeah.
to hear some complaints
Yep,
from the
absolutely.
as the ridership starts to come back.
Yeah.
They're getting a little less tolerant of,
Yeah, no, and some of them are quite big, and not
Yeah.
all of them fold
Yep.
up. So yeah, we are actively looking at how to handle that issue, because as trains get more crowded, there's less and less space for big old scooters.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm not familiar with the bike rule. So bikes are not allowed to be brought on during rush hour train, but they are in non-peak trains,
Yeah,
but they need a permit to do so?
You don't need a permit anymore.
Oh,
You
got it.
actually, that was the change that we announced over the summers, that you don't
Got
need a
it.
permit,
That's what I
because it was a
thought.
one-time permit, so it was actually a bigger administrative burden than actually providing a help to our train crews, but the rules have not changed at all.
Kathy, you have a hard job, a very hard job, and we've been very fortunate to have you at the helm. I joined this board in June of 2014. It was 6 months after Spite and Dival, and you've gone through that, rail repairs, PTC, COVID and its financial and ridership impacts, and then the hurricane that happened last year. And so I'm going to raise the similar topic that our friends from the PCAC raised, which is the following. I think everyone who rides Metro North is thrilled that the service is coming back. I took it in this morning. I took a picture, which will support the data, which is that every seat coming into Croton Harmon and going to Grand Central was filled. Not the middle seats, of course, but every seat was filled. And so the ridership is not back entirely. We all know that offices are not in any way, shape, or form at 5 days a week, but ridership is back in a certain way. And so people are starting to ask the question, I certainly asked the question, when's the timing of the trains going to return? And by that I mean, again, I'll try to bring it very practically and specifically. From the Garrison Station, it takes now 1 hour and 24 minutes on the schedule to get in. Of course, we know 5 minutes and 59 seconds miraculously is added every time. So it's 1 hour and 30 now at basically the core rush hour train, which, if I remember correctly, it used to be like 1 hour and 8, 1 hour and 10, 1 hour and 12, through all these unfortunate situations over the years, which are all important, and thank God you got PTC done, and thank God you improved the railway. But we have a financial issue, of course, but we also have a service issue. So when can the riders expect to start seeing some return, if at all, to something slightly more commutable? Because 1.5 hours each way is getting on the edge of not commutable.
So there's a lot packed into that question. So let me just start where I start. I think it's clear from my perspective, my team perspective, that frequency of service attracts more people back. And we need to find that sweet spot between running service that will lure people back, but not spending money on service that we don't need. So we've been trying to sort of find that sweet spot for the last 1.5 years, and we continue to look to try to find that sweet spot. But I sort of feel like more and more people coming back week over week is a good problem to have. And we're looking very closely at a couple things. Number one, we're looking at the busiest trains to see how busy they are. So where can we lengthen consists? Because that helps, right? Lengthening consists helps. So we're actively engaged in the effort of seeing where we can lengthen consists to give people a better experience. And we're also developing a schedule that we're going to try to work on, when does it make sense to put that out there? Because I agree with you. I think that, we want to give people reason to come back, and we want to give them a good experience when they do come back. And frequency of service and service that more closely approximates what they enjoyed before the pandemic, I think is going to be a real inducement to have people come back. And now it's just a question of timing, I think. And we're working very closely, with headquarters and, in terms of developing a strategy for when that would be. I think the other part of your question is speed of travel, right? And I think there's two pieces to that. Number one would be more express trains, because, when we put in the August 29th schedule, some people got express service back, some people had express service that was not available to them anymore. So there were winners and losers in that schedule. So we're in the process of developing a schedule that has more winners than losers, and we're working with headquarters in terms of a strategy and when we will put that schedule back. The other initiative, which is something that Jano has spoken about quite a lot, is improving speed of travel. So you've been on the board long enough to remember when we started to slow the railroad down for safety reasons, right? So we we completely get that in terms of bringing people back, a faster trip that is still safe is something that people are looking for. So we are, looking at opportunities to be able to take minutes out of the schedule safely to give people running times that more closely approximate what they had years ago. And that's a long-range project. It's not something we're going to do at the drop of a hat, but it is something that we're looking at very closely because it is something that's going to bring people back, and we recognize that.
The only thing I'd add is that if the board can help, because frequently we do changes in schedules, is it semi-annual? What's the frequency we change?
I mean, post-COVID, it's been a little bit less predictable than that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, before you'd have like a spring schedule and a fall schedule, but now it's, that kind of cadence has kind of gone by the boards a little bit.
All I'm saying is that I'm supportive of more frequent changes to find ways to shave minutes out, because by the way, the frequency of service has actually been fairly good. I think you've returned that. So there are more train options, but it is now a duration or speed of the travel. So the more you can change that and find efficiencies, the more we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually a little bit of both. I think, we've gone back and forth. The Upper Hudson actually did pretty well, both during the pandemic and post-pandemic, but there are other parts of the region that could benefit from a bit more service, and we're looking at that closely.
I think when Andy Byford was here, he proved that we could increase speed without jeopardizing safety, so it's definitely something we should look at.
Yep, we are.
Randy, then Bob.
I was looking at the current timetable. The big complaint one of my neighbors across the street gave me is that he's going back to the office several days a week. And in January, he was a regular commuter 5 days a week, parking permit, the whole thing. And he said he's not happy that there are no express trains in the peak hours that'll get him to his job at the time he used to. And I said, I agree with you. It's not, we need to get more express service there. I just took a quick look. I remember for years and years and years riding from Tarrytown to Grand Central, 38 minutes. The express now is 48 minutes. So that goes along to what Neil has said, that the travel time has got to be taken out. That's a big amount of time. And what Jerry had to say before about those boards, when I was in Grand Central last week, actually it was Wednesday, I was there a couple of times, but Wednesday one of your employees complained to me about those scooter boards, the dangers, how they're almost getting knocking over fellow employees. I mean, it's obviously something that I wish that you would bring to the MTA Police Department, that they can monitor and be out there on the platforms and watching for these people
Yeah,
who are
we're
driving them.
aware of the issue. They've gotten more and more prevalent.
She
over
said
the
she
course.
almost was hit
Yeah.
several times in recent weeks, and
Yep,
it was
no.
very concerning to her.
I understand.
So, reduce the running times, get us some express service at Tarrytown. I'm just glad I got a note over here to look at. I can let it go. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks, and I guess I have 2 points in 2 separate areas. One is really the feel of a need for a tutorial on what's happening in terms of travel time and on-time performance. I mean, it seems to me we're seeing perhaps a moving target, and that on-time performance could mean something very different based on current lengths of trips versus what used to be. And I'm wondering whether or not, I would certainly like to have a little time, just a tutorial of what's changed. Is the difference because there is no express and simply stopping at every station, or is the same train that stops at every station allowed more time to get from its initial spot to its destination than it used to be? And therefore, have we watered down on-time performance because we've lengthened the allowable time? I'm not comfortable with what's going on, because I understand there have been changes, and there have been changes that were necessitated by all sorts of reasons, safety, COVID, ridership, all sorts of things that have led to different times. And I think we really need to sit down and understand exactly what it means on-time performance now versus, let's say, 2 years ago. So I ask for that type of education. The second thing is on the topic that I know that Vinny and I have talked about a lot, and Neil have talked about, which is the issue of vaccination, and which seems to me is a central safety issue. And I'm asking, I don't want to relitigate our discussion that we've had over and over again about vaccine mandates. I'd like to ask for data to be delivered to us monthly. And it seems to me we ought to have in our safety report the percent vaccinated of our workforce. And I like to see it each month, and I'd like to see it weekly, so that we know in the month what's occurred. And if it's gone from 64 to 65 to 66%, let's see what's happening, and perhaps even a breakdown by those areas that have the highest level of vaccination percentage versus others. But I think we ought to look at that data. I must admit, I know I've said this any number of times, the fact that 96% of our school teachers and DOE are vaccinated, it makes me feel very good about my grandson going to school. The fact that Health and Hospitals has 96% of its workforce vaccinated makes me feel good about the providing health service. If we want people to feel safe, if we want workers to feel safe, we need numbers in the high 80s, 90% of vaccination. And I'm not saying that there's only one way of getting there. I'm not saying it must be mandated. There may be other ways of getting there, through incentives, through discussions, through town hall meetings. But I think we need to know where we are, what the percentages are, whether we're making progress, and if we're not making enough progress, we then need to know whether there are plan Bs that we need to implement to get to those objectives. Thanks.
Jerry?
Yeah, just a comment. You had mentioned the customer experience, and this goes for the Long Island Railroad as well as Metro North. The customers look at crowding a little bit differently than the railroads do. And it's understandable because the ridership, their concerns, obviously, they're still worried about COVID and things of that nature. So when you have 5 seats across, a 3-seater and a 2-seater, you'll have one person in the 2-seater and 2 people in the 3-seater, nobody in the middle. To you, and it makes sense, that's only 60%. To a lot of the riders who don't want to sit next to somebody unless they're personal friends with them, that's full. And I've seen situations like that where we have people, they're standing, and then they're probably complaining to you and Rob and Phil, you know, hey, our train's packed. And meanwhile, there are empty seats there. So I don't know what the solution to that is. I mean, I know you're under budget constraints and stuff like that, but I just wanted to put that out there, that the customer's viewpoint might be slightly different from your viewpoint as to what an overcrowded train is.
No, I think that goes without saying, you know, and that's what we're trying to work our way through, you know, providing that, you know, finding that appropriate level of, that sweet spot, right? Finding that appropriate level of service that gives people a good experience, but that, you know, is, you know, roughly commensurate with the levels of ridership that we're seeing. And, you know, it's you know, definitely been, you know, something we've been working on for the past year and a half.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Let's move on to the Metro North Safety Report.
No.
Norm,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah, miss the patience here, you know. Yeah, there's a couple things. Like what we count really matters here. What we display in terms of statistics really matters here, as far as people's understanding of where we're going with this. And part of the on-time performance stuff, the total trip performance, is a function of PTC. Or you just can't shave minutes off the way you used to be able to shave minutes off. And I don't know if there's a way to disaggregate that in the statistics, but what I'd like to see in the statistics, since we're all asking for a different statistic, is I want to see the maximum crowding and the minimum crowding. And there's ways to display that on a function as to how many, you know, how many really crowded trains there are, and what's the most maximum crowding of the trains. And as far as finding a sweet spot, you know, you're balancing things here against each other. If you run fewer trains, they're going to be more crowded. I mean, you know, and it's going to take longer to load and unload those trains. If you run more trains, you know, where do you decide to create the service improvement? Do you decide to make it on more crowded trains or more frequent trains, and it's, you know, it's there's a sweet spot here, but you know, you really have to dig deep into these statistics. If you get on one train that is really, really packed, that sticks in your brain. I mean, my train today on the way in was very, very crowded, but I thought of it as a good thing. But you know, it's very difficult sometimes to you know, find a place to stand in the city. But it's, you know, it's true, and the longer your ride is, the more you need a seat. And, that's what it is. Having these people in the outlying points, and they're getting stuck with a 10-minute longer trip. Of course, the farther out you are, the more likely you are to get a seat. But it's tough to come up with this. But I think to know where we're to find our sweet spot, we have to know what the maximums and the minimums are here as far as the concentration in each trip.
I think that's right, Norman. One of the things that, we've talked about here in Long Island, actually pioneered it, was this, the load data on the trains. And that's actually been extremely helpful in terms of finding out how many people are actually on these trains. It's helpful for planning purposes. But I think, I think your point is good because there's a lot going on here. It's the frequency of service. People are more inclined to come back if they don't have to wait an hour for a train, right? So the frequency of service is important. The quality of the service when they're on board. If they're feeling, too crowded or uncomfortable, that's going to be an issue, and it may affect their desire or their willingness to come back. So obviously we need to look at that. And number three, how long it takes them to get from point A to point B. I think all of those three things are going to be determinative in terms of how successful we are in bringing people back. And it's sort of our institutional imperative to bring people back, right? This is Jano has said this on more than one occasion. This is really an existential period for public transportation, and we need to bring people back. And the best way to do that is to give them an excellent customer experience, and we are working as hard as we can to do that for them.
Randy?
One quick question. As a result of last week's Connect With Us, where were the most complaints about the service coming from? Which of the three lines on East of Hudson, please?
So, complaint-wise, I think that it didn't tell us anything that we didn't already know, which is that the New Haven line trains there are some very crowded New Haven line trains, and we're looking at that very closely. Harlem line, some crowded trains, not as many. Hudson line, not so much. So that's an issue. We're seeing crowded trains on the New Haven line. Number two, the point that's been raised here, which is I used to have an express train. I don't have an express train anymore. Why is that? When am I going to get my express train back? So that's obviously an issue we've been talking about for a couple months. So we're very focused on that and aware of that. That's kind of, those seem to be the issues that are kind of rising to the top.
Thank you.
I would just like to add one thing. I think we have to remember as well that the trains are safe, right? There's no findings that trains are problematic in terms of spreading the virus. There's no empirical data showing that. So we just, and those are things that we can do to publicize that more and remind people that the trains are safe. All of our efforts are helping that to contribute to safety. So I just wanted to make sure we're all reminded of that.
Well, and the other thing that I would say, there's only so much we can do, right? It's mass transit. This is mass transit, public transportation. Even if we increase frequency of service, it's just the nature of the beast that people are going to be sitting next to each other. We're still coming out of the pandemic, and people are not used to sitting next to each other, but that's kind of the nature of the service that we provide. And it's trying to find that balance and give people an experience that they're comfortable with, while at the same time recognizing the realities of the public transportation experience.
Right. Rhonda?
Yes, and I agree, Kathy. But people have said to me that as long that they feel safe, even when it's crowded, and they're willing to sit next to people now in middle seats as long as everybody is masked up. So that is the most important thing, I think, because it is mass transit. They expect people to be, in masks, but they want them masked.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And we've reported on that for, I don't even know how many months now. It's a huge issue in terms of people who haven't been riding, who are coming back. They want to see the people next to them in masks. Thankfully, our mask compliance rate is good on both systems. Our mask compliance rate is good. That's not to say it's 100%. We can always do better, but our conductors are out there distributing masks. We've gotten support from the PD with respect to mask compliance, and this is a top of mind issue, because I completely agree with you. This is something that people look to and are expecting to see when they get back on board. So I couldn't agree with you more, Rhonda.
I agree. I saw 100% compliance on the Long Island Railroad this morning, and everybody on the subway, I was on the 4 and the 5, they were wearing it too. One woman was using it as a chin strap, so it was close, but I saw almost everybody wearing it, so it was nice to see. David, do you have something to say?
Well, here, yeah. On the airline, everyone's masked. It's 3 seats no problem, and I agree. Of course, we should also look at and continue to monitor the compliance rate.
Let's move on to the Metro North Safety Report.
Good morning. Metro North Safety Report can be found on pages 36 to 38 of the committee book. The FRA reportable customer accident rate stands at 1.75, which is up from 1.13 in the prior reporting period. The FRA reportable lost time employee injury rate stands at 1.88, which is down from 2.08 in the prior reporting period. There have been no grade crossing incidents, no mainline reportable derailments, and no mainline reportable train collisions for the year to date. Employee safety training hours are 138,552 for the year to date. For community outreach contacts, we were at 87,250 for the month of September, which brings us to 163,014 for the year to date. September results are higher because of increased social media presence and other activities for Rail Safety Week, which was held September 20th through 26th. As just a few examples of Rail Safety Week events, those include outreach at stations and grade crossings, a rail safety contest, which continues to run through December 19th, and Red Out for Rail Safety Day, in which employees of Metro North's Maintenance of Way Department wore red shirts and were photographed with Metro Man, Metro North's Tracks program mascot, to promote rail safety awareness. And that concludes Metro North's Safety Report. Thank you.
Any questions? All right. Next up is MTA Police Report, and I believe we have Chief McGran on the call.
Yes, you do, Kevin. I'm trying to get my video to cooperate here. There we go. Okay, very good. All right. System-wide, as you can tell, the numbers say that we're up 17% compared to last year. However, the numbers continue to be skewed because of the pandemic. When we compare our total major felonies 2021 to 2019, the last time we had full ridership, we're actually down about 31%. But again, the numbers are still off quite a bit. A major concern continues to be the felony assaults against our employees as well as our customers. We saw an increase in felony assaults across the board, particularly against our police officers when effecting arrest, but also against some of our conductors, one of whom was seriously injured just last month when a woman smashed a pumpkin in her face on the Metro North line. Fortunately, the conductor is going to be okay, although she suffered a number of stitches to her face. And I believe I was informed by Kathy just recently that that particular conductor has chosen to retire. As far as the perpetrator goes, she's been remanded to Rikers Island pending another court appearance on December 13th. That individual will be prosecuted for the attack on the conductor, but also she's being held by the city because of a stabbing. She actually stabbed her own father fairly recently, so we don't expect her to be released anytime soon from custody. As far as the international threats against major transportation facilities, the Department of Criminal Justice Services, as well as as well as the Department of Homeland Security, reports that there are no credible threats in our area or against the system nationwide. However, we continue to remain alert because, as we always say, complacency is our biggest enemy. The See Something, Say Something program has proven to be effective. We still get customers calling in whenever they see something that's suspicious, whether it be a package or an individual. We've increased our train rides with the police officers, actually riding about, I have down 75 trains per day in Metro North and about 75 trains out east on Long Island for the protection of our customers, but also for the protection of our fellow employees. In addition to the ride-alongs, we do about 107 step-ons in the northern region and the eastern region each day. That's where our police officers come off patrol and they get onto the platforms and step on the trains to make sure that people are in compliance with the mask requirements and also to give them some assurance of public safety. On a positive note, our body-worn cameras have finally been delivered to us, and our training has begun so that every officer on patrol will be wearing body-worn cameras starting in January. Many of our officers who have come over from the NYPD are familiar with the program and are very much in favor of it, which helps us out in convincing officers that are a little skeptical about using these particular devices. However, I think it's in the best interest of the officer themselves and also the MTA that we have these body-worn cameras out there and in service. Providing quality service to our customers and to our fellow employees while protecting the MTA infrastructure remains our priority, and we continue to do so with the increasing ranks that we are bringing on new officers every day. By midsummer of next year, we should have completed the hiring of the 500 additional officers that Andrew Cuomo had started approximately 2 years ago. And with those additional officers, we'll be able to do a little bit more in way of subway and bus protection here in the city. That's my report for now, if there are any questions.
Thanks, Chief. I don't have a question, but I have a request, if you could. I got a phone call last week from State Senator Phil Boyle's office, again complaining about the Babylon station, aggressive panhandling again and drug dealing during the day. Could you or Hector, or maybe both of you, reach out to Senator Boyle's office and discuss with them? I know we met with them about a year ago.
Absolutely. The Babylon station continues to be a little bit of a thorn in our side with that methadone clinic in such close proximity to the station itself. But we'll reach out to Senator Boyle and arrange another meeting.
Any other questions for the Chief? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Long Island information items. It was very easy yesterday to turn off the jets and begin diving into the 500 or so pages of materials that staff so generously sent us for our weekend reading pleasure. But I saw a couple of things in there that I had a question on. On the East Side Access Support Projects update, there seems to be a problem with the Port Washington expanded rail yard. Rob, is there somebody who could explain that, and will it have any impact on the East Side Access project?
Sure. Paul, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Sure. Good morning. Yeah, Port Washington Yard is one of our East Side Access Support projects that is still in the planning stage. We need to continue to work and have a dialogue with the town to examine some of the options to move forward, to examine those. What we can do about extending those two tracks. There are significant impacts, to the parking there. In the meantime, from a service plan perspective, we're obviously writing plans based on the available infrastructure that will be there.
So it's still on the drawing books. We just have some preliminary work to work out with the municipality before the construction can begin.
That's correct. We will continue to do so.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions on the information items for Long Island Railroad or Metro North? All right. Let's go to procurements. There's none for the Long Island Railroad. There's none for Metro North, but we have a couple for C&D. And Rob, who's going to walk us through that?
David, if you could, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
There's David.
Construction and Development has 3 procurement actions totaling $58.7 million being brought to the committee this month. All 3 items are in the competitive section and begin on page 87. The first item requests approval to award a publicly advertised, competitively solicited, and negotiated contract to construct Phase 3B of the Long Island Railroad Sandy Restoration and Resiliency Project for the Long Island City Storage Yard to Pacifico Civil Incorporated in the amount of $38,092,008. This is the last of a 2-phase project to restore yard components that suffered damage due to Superstorm Sandy, and to increase the resiliency of the yard to avoid such damage in the future. The second item requests approval of a modification to the ESA Consultant Construction Management Contract with Jacobs LIRR Joint Venture in the amount of $14,272,889 for additional funding and the addition of an option for final closeout of ESA contracts. The additional funding is for additional unanticipated scope that are detailed in the staff summary. The option period to be exercised at C&D's sole discretion extends the contract term past the ESA revenue service date to allow Jacobs LIRR to assist in closeout process of ESA construction contracts that they are in charge of. The funding for this modification is available in the ESA project budget. The last item requests approval of a modification to the project management consulting services for the Penn Station Long Island Railroad Train Hall renovation project to extend the contract term for an additional 12-month period from January 23rd, 2023 to January 23rd, 2024 for a not-to-exceed cost of $6.3 million. The extension request is due to the alignment of this contract, align this contract with the construction project schedule. When this contract was awarded, it was anticipated that Phase 1 and Phase 2 of this project would overlap and be completed by the end of 2022. However, the development and award of Phase 2 was delayed due to the lack of as-built data, required coordination with other projects at Penn Station, and redesigns necessary to reduce Phase 2 costs to meet the available budget for the project. Phase 2 is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2023. I submit these items for your consideration and vote.
Thank you, David. I just have a couple of comments about the work that you and your team do. It's really impressive, and I think it gets lost. I think because we never get into details too much at the committee meetings, and certainly at board meetings. We're just approving contracts, left and right. But here's $60 million worth of contracts, and going through the materials yesterday, I was super impressed. Again, it's always good to, especially for some of the new board members who aren't aware of all the steps that you guys take. And I'll just use the Basilico contract as an example. First you advertise it in all the places you're supposed to advertise it in. You got 11 respondents, which sounds like a pretty good competition. You narrowed that down to 6, and then you bring in those 6. And you have technical evaluations, you have pre-established criteria to evaluate everything. There's a technical approach, a planning approach, a scheduling approach, and of course qualifications, experience, and cost. And then you narrowed those 6 down to 3 after oral presentations and a thorough and comprehensive discussion of the project with all of them. You narrow that down to 3, then you get best and final offers from the members. And then even after that, when you zero in on one, you negotiate with them again and get a lower price than what they had originally submitted in the best and final offer. And, so it's very reassuring, to, the board members that you and your team and staff take all these steps as you ask us to approve these very significant, high dollar contracts. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And sometimes we lose sight out of all the work that you guys have to do to get a contract ready for us to approve. And so based on your presentation and again, the reminders of the things that we read each month on the procurement matters, I will move it, and Bob Lynn will second it. Are there any comments, revisions, abstentions? All in favor? Well, Jerry?
No, just one comment. I think it's important, like you've done in the past, that you have board members invited to walk through some of these job sites. Because, just heard you talking about getting approval on change orders. It's like, I'm in the business, so that's like the big red flag, change orders. But I was able to walk through that job site, get behind the scenes and see everything that was going on and saw what you were dealing with. And after doing that, I've got no problem now. But sometimes, you know, you need to get the board members out, or at least give them the invitation to walk through, like Eastside Access, we walk through the Penn Station, because it makes it a lot more real to us, and we can understand a lot better what you're dealing with. So, and it's quite impressive what you guys are doing over there. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So there's a motion, there's a second. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion for all three procurements carries. David, thank you.
Thank you, and on behalf of the entire contracts team, we appreciate your appreciation of the hard work. It's a labor of love that we do, and trying to make sure we get the MTA the best bang for its buck.
Great, thank you. Okay, no ratifications. Agency reports are in the book. Again, I have two questions. One on the Long Island Railroad Finance Report. With the escalating fuel cost, Rob, you know, whether it's gas, oil, you know, et cetera, how is that impacting our budget? And do we have some type of hedging program in place to address those spikes in the fuel costs and thus our impact on our overall revenues and expenses?
Francis, if you could, Francis is from the finance tower. He'll be able to articulate.
On the fuel side, we are right now running unfavorable. I think we had a forecast of 15.8. We're actually spent to date 16.8. Fuel prices are up. Some of that's being offset by a forecast that assumed additional usage than we're actually doing, a little bit additional. So at this point, we're fine. We do see, like everything else, we see the number coming up. And as part of the November plan, and as we go into as part of the February plan, we'll be adjusting. MTA has a number of wide competitive approaches to this, and we can get you more information on that if you like.
All right, great, thank you. And then just on the ridership report, bringing out my inner Andrew Albert here, and it says that we're 41% down from 2020, and it's on page 127 and 134. Should that be 2019?
We'll take a further look at it, but it does make sense that it shouldn't be versus 2020. It should be
That it should be
2019.
2019.
Right, yes.
Correct,
We'll
yeah.
take a further look
Yeah,
at
we'll
it.
check on that. All right. Anybody else have any other questions on any of the reports? Any other business that commissioners want to raise at the joint committee meeting? All right, hearing none. Want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And I won't see you Wednesday, but I'll see you guys next month. So enjoy. Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Patience and seconded by Bob. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, Norm.